There is a secret to reading music as fast as humanly possible that I haven't seen anywhere on YouTube. In the first part of this video, I'm going to explain what the secret is, and in the second part, I'm going to teach you how to practice it for the best results. I want to start out by asking you a question. If I'm right here in the sheet music, should my eyes be focused on A, the notes that I'm currently playing, B, on my hands, or C, should I be looking straight ahead? If you said yes to any of these answers, you are in fact wrong. The real answer is actually right here. Now I know what you're thinking. Why? Well, the secret strategy is that you want to be looking anywhere between 2 beats to an entire measure ahead of where you currently are in the music. Reading ahead allows you to process notes ahead of where you currently are and gives you more time to think, even though it's going to take some time to get used to. And remember that the most important part of this is that you practice this right, which we'll get to in just a minute. Now there's probably a question on some of your minds, which is, Tim, do I need to know how to read music before I can work on reading ahead? And the answer is absolutely, but don't worry, you can finish this lesson because you can still understand the concept, and then I'm going to link you to something at the end that's going to catch you up. Now, as promised, I'm going to explain how to practice this technique, and there are 3 sections you have to do in order for this to work, so make sure you pay attention. Here's part 1. So the first thing you want to do is start by practicing a piece that you've already learned and is significantly easier than what you're currently working on. So ideally, to work on this, you should be playing piano for maybe a few weeks to a few months. So if your current piece currently looks like this, you should be practicing reading ahead with a piece that looks more like this. That way you have a foundation of a piece already learned, and you can focus on reading ahead. Since reading ahead is something you're going to have to focus on all on itself, and you want to make sure you have the notes, the dynamics, everything else in place already. The next thing is you want to start this piece at a slower tempo than you usually do and see if you can play the piece while looking 2 to 4 beats ahead of where you are. I would start out with 2 beats since that's a little bit easier. Next, play through the piece as many times as you need to feel comfortable reading ahead. And lastly in this section, it's going to be very difficult at first. I'm telling you this right now. It's going to seem impossible even. But make sure that you keep practicing this and it will start to click with you and you will start to get used to it. Remember that I said there are 3 parts to this how to practice section, and that was just all part 1. So make sure you practice that and feel comfortable with it. But let me explain part 2. Once you're comfortable with playing a very easy piece ahead, next you want to find another piece that you have already learned but is tougher than the first piece that you picked. Then you want to follow the same steps I gave you for the first piece, which is where you start to play at a slow tempo and try to read at least 2 beats ahead of where you are. And yes, to answer your question, when you get to the end of a line, you want to be looking ahead at that next line. Again, it's going to take some practice. Then the last part of this section is that for each practice session, you want to be reading an easier piece, but looking ahead, and maybe take up 5 to 10 minutes of your practice sessions by doing this. Now for the third part in this practice explanation. Are you ready for it? This is where things start to get a bit tougher. Next, after you've learned, I don't know, a few pieces reading ahead, maybe say 5, then you want to try reading ahead on the pieces that you're currently working at and pieces at your current level, since you're going to have to integrate this into your regular practice now. Again, this is going to be very difficult at first. It may even seem impossible, but make sure to approach it slow and consistently, and it will start to come together, I promise. The next one, I want to give you some tips on making this whole process easier, and then I have a final tip at the end of the video that, of course, you're going to want to stick around for. Here are some tips to make things easier. Before playing, you want to make sure that you scan the piece for difficult areas in terms of notes and rhythms, or maybe things that just look difficult to you. Next, you want to isolate and play those difficult measures over and over again until you feel comfortable with them, since those are the measures that are probably going to slow you down when you're trying to look ahead. If you find yourself going back to the old habit of looking where you are in the music, which logically makes sense, right? You want to remind yourself to look ahead, which brings me to the last point. Start writing "look ahead" on the top of all your music sheets so that you remember to do it, because you need to practice this consistently for it to work. If you work on it a little bit and then go back to old habits, it's not going to do you any good. And always remember, if you're having trouble, slow down. It's not a race. Nobody is clocking how much time it takes to get to the end of the piece. You can always work on that later. So now you know a little bit about the secret of reading music as fast as possible, but there's a few things you need to know to be able to lay the groundwork for this to work right. Here are some things that you're going to have to master before you can read ahead in your music. Number one is how to read music on the staff. 2 is how to read ledger lines going up off the staff. Next, how to recognize intervals and apply them instantly. And lastly, you're going to have to know how to recognize patterns in music, such as chords and scales, and be able to identify them on the spot. If you don't have these 4 things mastered, that's totally okay, because I'm going to link you to a video right here called How to Read Music in One Easy Lesson that's going to catch you up on everything. It's been your piano teacher, Tim, here. Thanks for coming by, and I'll see you next time.